Hello, tiny friends. Welcome back to TinyKeyHoleMinis. I'm Jolene, and today I'm going to be working in the Josephine house. Now, Miss Margot's son will be home soon, and I thought I better create a bedroom for him. And the only other place to do that is up in the attic. So, this isn't my original plan for the attic, but just like in real life, plans change, and you just got to roll with them, right? So I'm going to make a larger portion of the attic to be their bedroom. And then I'll go with the original plan that I had to create an old attic space for storage. Now, I'm making it a larger bedroom because I need to create a bedroom big enough for 2 people. That's right, tiny friends. He is going to be coming home with his wife. So there is going to be 2 of them. And even though this is going to be an old bedroom up in the attic, I still want it to be pretty comfortable for them. It's bad enough they're going to have to go up a pull-down ladder, up and down. And I'm thinking that the pull-down ladder needs to be on their side of the attic in the bedroom so that when they enter into the attic, they're not entering into the old attic space and having to walk through that. Today, I'm going to be focusing on creating the wall that's going to divide the attic into 2 spaces. And right now, I'm just using the stick to try and figure out where I want to place it and how much space I want to create for the bedroom. This is such a large open space that there's going to be plenty of room on each side, no matter how big I make the bedroom. I could probably even add another bathroom up here if I wanted to, but I'm not going to because this is an old farmhouse. I'm going to stick with the 1 bathroom. The old farmhouse that I lived in was built in 1875 and it had 5 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. So I'm going to stick with that concept and save myself from having to build an additional room. So the wall will go somewhere in this area, not directly in the middle, but I do plan on creating a little cubby door as well to have access into the old attic storage. Now, I just got to figure out how to build this wall. Okay, so I created a template of the side walls, which are shaped like a triangle, and I'm going to be using foam board today. So I'm going to need to cut out 2 pieces to make it stronger. I prefer using mat board, but I don't have any on hand, so I'm going to go with what I have. So here's my first piece, and I'm going to create a second piece by tracing out the first piece, and then I'm going to glue these 2 pieces together. Now here is my door, and I'm just using a piece of scrap wood that I didn't have to cut, so it worked out perfectly, and I'm just going to make it work. I've painted both sides, and yeah, this will do just fine. Now, I do have some old hardware. These are doorknobs from my very first dollhouse that I salvaged, and I thought they would be perfect to add to the little cubby door. I've cut out the door opening, and you can see it's very close to the edge of the wall, like super close. And I have left enough space on the inside to add an inside frame. Now, I had to put it as far over as I could because these walls are angled. All the walls in the attic are angled, so it gives me less wall space to work with. So I was just trying to give myself as much wall space as possible. I will be adding layers onto this wall, so it will strengthen it. And this end is going to be the end that will eventually be glued to the back wall. So I'm feeling like it'll be okay and that it won't break on me. But right now it's super weak in that spot, so I just have to be pretty careful. It's a little flexible there because I'm so close to the edge. But I'm just taking these skinny sticks and creating an inside frame for the doorway. And I'll do the same thing for both sides of the wall for the outer door frame. As long as I have enough room to create an outer frame for the door, then I'm perfectly okay with it. So all my pieces are cut for my frames, and I am beginning with Antique Wax by Waverly, but I do end up switching out and painting over with a raw umber because I kind of like the way it looked a little better than the wood. I want it to be more of a darker brown and not looking like a stained wood. So although I started with this, I did switch it up a little bit later. I've glued the inside frame already in place, and now I'm gluing the outside frame together. I'm using tacky glue. Now I did add an additional piece of wood to the outside frame to give it a double layer because I just liked the way the design looked a little better than if I just left it a single panel. I'm going to do that to the baseboard as well. So once I get this into place, I'll just clean up any excess glue. And I've also mitered the corners on this so they have a more snug fit and just look more like a natural frame. This is what I have so far. And now I'm just going to flip it over and add the other frame to the back. So far, so good. I can actually stand the wall up and everything is flush to the surface. Nothing's hanging over. Nothing needs to be trimmed off. So I'm doing pretty good so far. Okay, so for the door, I've already added the hinges and I used my metal needle files. I used a square one to create some inset grooves so that I can insert the hinges right into those little grooves. Now I did use glue and the nails. I actually used the nails for this, but I will not be able to use the nails to attach the door to the frame because it will interfere with the door opening and closing correctly. So I'm just gonna glue the hinges to the frame. I also need to make some adjustments to the door. There's a wider gap on one side, so I'm going to add another piece of wood and trim the door down a little bit because it's kind of at an angle. It's kind of a little uneven. So I'm going to fix that. In the meantime, I'm going to work on the walls. And in the beginning of my channel, I did the house tour and talked about how much I really love this wallpaper and that I would be keeping it no matter what I did to the attic. I thought that I would be able to heat up the other wall and easily peel that paper off, but that didn't work. So I duplicated it by taking a picture and going into my Photoshop and filling in the background and then finagling the color to match the best that I could. So now I have another piece of wallpaper of this wallpaper that I love so much. And the bedroom can have two matching walls because I will be covering up that other wall and I'll be losing that wallpaper. And I just hated knowing that. So I made a template and I am going to cut it up into 3 pieces so that I can get everything I need from this one sheet. I printed this on a matte photo paper, which is kind of a thicker, heavier paper. So it's almost like a cardstock. So it'll give the wall a little more support. Now I'm just going to trace and cut the pieces that I need. Okay, I have my 3 pieces cut out. This is what the bedroom wall will look like. I do not have them glued down yet. I'm still deciding on if I want to put some trimming on the sides, but I will definitely put a baseboard down. I'm not going to glue it down yet. I'm going to flip it over and work on the other side, which will be the old attic side. And then I'll come back to glue these pieces down and complete this wall. Okay, for the old attic wall, I'm going to be adding some support beams and that's going to strengthen the wall. And I wanted to insulate this wall with old newspapers. Now, I am a fan of true crime and I am a fan of history. So I joined the two together and I went into the late 1800s, early 1900s. So the turn of that century. And I found real news articles of historical tragedies. So all my newspapers have some sort of real historical tragedy on it. And I decided to play with the coloring a little bit to make them look a little older. But then I had this idea, like, what if I printed this same sheet on paper bag, brown paper bag, because that kind of feels like newspaper. So I decided to, even though I love all the different tones of this sheet that I printed, I decided to print on a piece of brown paper bag as well. And I just copied the same page onto the paper bag. So now I have two prints, and I'm going to be using both, and I'm just going to mix them up, and that'll give me a little more variety. I probably picked about 17, and I think I'm just going to do different cuts. So you really can't tell that some of them will be duplicated. I'm just going to cut them in different ways so that it's really not all that noticeable. Now I do have a good variety, so I think it's going to work out. Okay, I've got all my pieces cut out. I've got two little piles and a great color variation, or a variation of color. Yeah, okay. I really love the brown paper bag ones because you can rip the edges, you can tear them up a little. They feel a little more like newspapers, and I do love the color. So right now I'm just going to give myself a visual. This probably isn't going to be how it's going to be laid out. I just want to have some sort of visual. Okay, I'm going to begin with putting on my side beams. Now I painted all of my beams with a raw umber, and then I went over them with a dry brush of black acrylic. And I'm just going to use some tacky glue to glue the side beams on, and I'm actually standing them up, not laying them down. So I'm just lining them up with the front edge, and I am just applying a little bit of pressure until they take hold. I want to make sure that they're completely even with the front edge because I'll be adding a panel or a trimming to that later on. Okay, I've added all my long support beams, and I have spaced each one out about 1.5 inches apart, and that is about how wide my newspapers are. So I can fit my newspapers in between each one, and even the smaller papers are still going to be about 1.5 inches wide. So now I just have to complete the last two beams on each end, which will be the two corner beams. Okay, for these beams, I have to shave down one end. So I'm using my X-Acto knife, my craft knife, and I am just kind of mitering the end so that when I attach it to the side beam and it connects, it'll be connecting at an angle and sit nice and snug up against that side panel. Okay, I'm going to test it out to make sure it's still standing nicely and everything is flush to the surface. Nothing needs to be trimmed down. Again, one of these edges will be eventually glued to the wall, and the other one that faces the front will eventually have some sort of trimming over it. Now I'm going to go ahead and place all of my newspapers, and this is kind of like a puzzle. So it's going to take me some time to go ahead and rearrange these and fit them all in. Okay, so that is all figured out. This is what it looks like. I don't have them glued down yet, but I will be gluing them down one page at a time. I'm going to start from my corners, and then each row I'll begin from the top and work my way down to the bottom. This way I don't lose the order that they're in and get confused. So I'm just going to use tacky glue for this and give it a nice even layer on the back, and then go ahead and lay them down. Now that that's done, I can go ahead and add the side support beams. These will be the beams that lay across the newspapers. I'm not going to need to divide every single newspaper. I'm just going to put these in randomly where I think they look good, and I'm just using tacky glue, trimming them down to size, and gluing them into place. Okay, this is what it looks like, and now I just have one last step, and this side will be done. I'm going to go in with my chalk pastels and do some aging, and I'm just going to go in right around the wood. For the first layer, I'm going to use my brown, and then I'm going to go back in with black and add a little bit of black in the areas. I like to use both colors versus just one because it shows a process of aging. So you'll be able to see a little bit of the brown and a little bit of the black as the wall ages over time. Alrighty. This wall is completed, and this is what it looks like. Later on, we'll take a closer look at those historical tragedies. Now I'm going to flip it over and finish the bedroom wall. The wallpaper is glued on, and I decided for this side, I wanted the trimming to be white. So I painted it white, and I'm going to go ahead and add the baseboards and show you how I created those. Okay, for the baseboards, I did do a double panel. Now, the only thing I had long enough without making the long piece into two pieces were these giant popsicle / craft sticks that I had. And this is what it looks like. And it was just barely long enough after I trimmed off the round ends. But the difference between a giant and a jumbo is this. So the smaller one is actually a jumbo and the large one is a giant. And I believe I purchased them from my local Walmart, and the package actually said giant on them. So I created the baseboards with that. And now I'm just going to go in and add some dirt and a little bit of staining and aging. I'm just using my black and brown chalk pastels the same way I did on the wall, and I'm also using a cotton swab to kind of soften it up and spread it out a bit. And then I'm also adding a tiny bit of antique wax just to give a few of the spots a little darker brown. And now I'm going into the door frame to do the same thing. I'm also going to add a little bit of this on the outside of the door frame around the wall, and then I'm just going to spread that around and blend that in as well. The wallpaper is already naturally aged and stained, and I'm not really sure if that's the way it was when it was first put on the walls or if that really aged over time. But I don't have to do anything to it. I'm going to leave that as is. I love the way it looks. Okay, for now I'm just going to dry fit the baseboards just to make sure everything is good and I don't need to make any changes before permanently gluing them down. I am still deciding on if I'm going to add trimming. I did prepare the trimming just in case I do add it. I want to make sure if I need it to fill in any gaps that they're already prepared. But I won't be adding any trimming until I permanently glue the wall in. So if I'm going to do it, I'll do it then. And right now I'm just using tacky glue to glue down my baseboards. I already know that there's a little gap on the floor from the wall not touching the floor all the way. So I probably should be adding the baseboards on while the wall is in place, but I'm just going to try and guesstimate this. And I am putting them a little bit lower than the bottom of the floor. And I'm trying not to do it too much because then the wall won't sit in place right. So before this can completely dry, I'm going to take it and put it in place to make any adjustments. This way I can try and conceal that gap a little bit more. So this is what it looks like. And now we're going to take a closer look at those historical tragedies. Okay, tiny friends, the wall is in place, but I haven't glued it yet. I still have a lot of work to do in the attic. So I have to do the back wall and the floor and the opposite side wall. And then I'll glue this piece into place, but I'll need to remove it in order to do the rest of the work. The little door opens, and I am still thinking about the trimming. There is a slight little gap between the two walls, so I might end up putting that trimming on there. Here is an overall view of the whole attic and the two spaces, and I'm thinking I might actually create a baseboard to go on the opposite bedroom wall just to tie it all in and make it look more cohesive. I'm not really sure yet. but I will be doing a lot more work to this space, and when it is completed, it will look totally different. But I hope you all have enjoyed this video today. And if you have, please give it a thumbs up and click that like button and let me know in the comments below what you thought of this new wall. If this is your first time joining in and would like to see more of my miniature projects, please subscribe to my channel and don't forget to hit that top bell notification button to be notified every time I upload a new project so you don't miss out. As always, I'd like to thank everybody for subscribing and welcome to all my new subscribers. Thank you all for your support. It means so much to me and helps my channel to grow. Until next time, tiny friends, I hope you all have a lovely day, and I will see you all on the mini side. Bye-bye.